Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, dear speakers, dear participants, and a warm welcome from my side to this webinar, and I'm happy to have you with us this afternoon. This is the last webinar in the context of the Meet the Zebras concept, and we will talk about cross-sector innovation. Before starting the session, and for those of you who are not familiar with InEvent, here are a few hints on how to use the tool. On the right-hand side, you have the following buttons: the chat, where you can put your messages in; the questions, where you can ask your questions to the presenters and also during the panel afterwards; a poll that we will use during the presentations in order to have your feedback on certain questions; the people, this is the list of the participants and files that could be shared with you. And please pay attention, as already mentioned, to put your questions really in the respective questions tab. Otherwise, it will be difficult for me to use these questions and include them in the discussions. So let's come to the agenda of today's webinar. My name is Jean-Paul Hengen, Company Relationship Manager for ICT at Lux Innovation, and I will be your moderator for the rest of the webinar. And during this webinar, we will talk about creativity in relation to cross-sector innovation and look at this topic from different angles. In order to introduce the topic and set the frame, we will have a keynote speech, 2 presentations, and a roundtable discussion. The keynote speech will be done by Josephine Hage, and the presentations are covered by Mark Snukas and Tom Kettles. And now, without further ado, I will leave the floor to Josephine Hage, who will introduce herself and give us some insights about creative networks, why and how cross-innovation, and the role of R&D in this context. Enjoy your speech. Josephine, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much for introducing me, and I'm very happy that I can share some of my experiences in the field of cross-innovation with you today. Happy World Creativity and Innovation Day to all of you. Co-working, co-design, co-creation, these are really terms of our times. So we live in an age of cooperation. Then why do we still need a keynote on cross-innovation? I'm Josephine, and I'm talking to you from Leipzig today. And in the 1990s, Leipzig has been sort of the prototype of a shrinking city. Today, Leipzig is a creative city par excellence. More than 10 years ago, creative entrepreneurs from different backgrounds, from marketing, from film production, musicians, and others, founded the first creative industries network in Germany. What we had been familiar until then were artistic networks, like dancers working in networks together, or marketing agencies, etc. But 2010 marked the year in which creatives said, we have a common interest. We need a lobby for solo entrepreneurs, for micro-sized businesses in the creative industries, and we need a network through which we can concentrate very different competences. These very different competences are needed to address ever more complex challenges. But before I explain how we can come from creative networks to co-creative networks, I would like to point out why cross-innovation is not a nice to have in our innovation landscape, but very essential for the future of our economies and societies. That has been the founding document, by the way, of this association in Leipzig. Cross-innovation, why? It's a fact that those who should cooperate, in fact, meet each other far too seldom in their entrepreneurial life. Let me share an example with you. A DJ in Leipzig was tired of putting his record players on tables with just a sheer black cloth. So he thought, so there must be a way to have a cooler setup for my turntables. And what you see here in the picture is what he came across with. So he developed a set of DJ furniture from retro to futuristic. All of the different sets are fully customizable in terms of color and surface. Obviously, he didn't have the skills to produce this furniture. So he looked for a carpenter in the region to partner up with. And that's the result of this cooperation. This DJ furniture you can find at bands like Portishead, one of my favorite bands, in several TV stations, or in also football clubs like Paris Saint-Germain bought it. Today, the carpenter makes 20% of his turnover with the production of this DJ furniture, and 80% of these tables are exported to the US American market. Also, the DJ took the product to one of the world's most important music merchant trade fairs, the NAMM in Anaheim in California. This is just one very local example from my city, and I could tell hundreds of more examples. We know that the brightest ideas emerge from discourse and collaboration. But before we take a closer look at how we can make cross-innovation happen, let's look at the bigger picture and the European dimension. You all might have heard about the new initiative, the new European Bauhaus that was formulated by Ursula von der Leyen, the Commission President. It's a creative initiative that shall break down barriers between science, technology, art, and shall contribute to cultural and social inclusion and make creatives a core force for fulfilling the Green Deal of the European Union. Another strategic setup we have to take into account is that the European Institute of Technology for the first time will launch a call about creative industries. It just an information session just took place an hour ago, by the way. Another core strategic initiative on the European level is the STARTS initiative of the European Commission. STARTS stands for Science, Technology and Arts, and it's an initiative that includes residencies, calls, exhibitions, and the STARTS Prize. What you see in the picture is a 3D printed steel bridge. It contains more than 4,500 of kilograms of steel, and it took over 6 months to print it, and you can now experience it in Amsterdam. It won the STARTS Prize in 2018. With the new multi-annual funding framework of the European Union, we also have a new innovation and research program. It's called Horizon Europe. And here, for the first time, creative industries really play a key role in order to tackle global challenges and for the future of industrial competition of the European Union. So check out the upcoming calls in the Cluster 2, Culture, Creativity and Inclusive Society. Regardless of what I presented just now, our innovation schemes on the local, regional, and most of the times also on the national level are far too narrow. Experiments are not encouraged enough, and even though the case for cross-innovation has long been made, we still are not in a place where we really can, build upon the potential that we have in the creative industries. There are at least 6 good reasons to invest in cross-innovation processes. It's the experimental approach that enables to identify new areas of application in the field of technology, for example. It's the translation competence we have in the creative industries that makes research and technologies really tangible and understandable. It's the inter- and transdisciplinary competences of the creative industries that we really need to solve the ever more complex problems of our world. Creatives also are experts for user-centered perspectives, so we get better design and usability. And a very important reason I would like to point out is creatives are communicative and they are experts for participation. And they can ensure social acceptance and citizen engagement. And they also bring in the market perspective in order to take ideas really to the market. I just come from a conference of the European Creative Business Network, in which my organization is also part of. They hosted a conference this morning for the World Creativity and Innovation Day, and part of the conference was the member of European Parliament, Christian Ehler. He is very engaged in putting forward the case for creative industries for years, and he said this morning, the way to disruptive innovation is creative innovation. A sentence I just can underline like 10 times. But how can we put disruptive innovation through creative innovation into practice? There are many, many ways to make cross-innovation happen, from fresh encounters during a speed dating session to innovative workshops, residencies, or long-term innovation workshops, labs, and hackathons. I brought you some examples. In the upper left, you see that Ireland just introduced a creative climate fund, and it will enable creatives and citizens to work together on challenges posed by climate change. In Hamburg, the colleagues, they established the Cross Innovation Lab some years ago, and here creatives and companies from other business sectors work together in an interdisciplinary process over the course of several weeks even. The colleagues from Creative Industries Austria, they initiated transformation workshops in which creatives are the key source for the way out of the crisis for those business sectors hit worst by the current COVID-19 crisis. We, as Kreatives Sachsen, we organize different cross-innovation formats. In the lower left, you see an example how we teamed up with our partners from the tourism sector, and we brought together people with new ideas for the tourism sector with dancers, with online marketing specialists, and we took this format. We didn't host this format in the urban city centers, but really in the region. We have a very beautiful landscape in Saxony, and because we believe that we can make these innovative formats happen also in the region. So there are many ways. Currently, you might have heard Chemnitz, a city in our region, will be European Capital of Culture in 2025. So tomorrow we will take industry, research, and the creative scene on a digital table, and we will find out what we can do together in order to bring projects alive for the European Capital of Culture in 2025. This is a last example before I conclude. It's the Funken Academy for Artistic Research. That's been organized by partners from our networks, and here our colleagues put together artists with research institutes, and they worked on questions from the research institute in the field of textiles and material sciences, and it will be presented as part of the Ars Electronica exhibition from tomorrow on. So tune in if you have time at 6 o'clock. To conclude, 11 years ago, the first Creative Industries Network of Germany was founded. Now it's time for co-creative networks and practices. We live in an era of cooperation. The time of the creatives has come. The window for cross-innovation has never been more open. To me, creative entrepreneurs are the research and development department for our economies and societies. And yes, creatives are the key source for our common way out of the crisis.